Yesterday was election day, and we are also into day after, the day after the village idiot Donald Trump promised to annihilate a civilization. What a difference a day makes, right? Also, well, that's enough. Let me just get everything ready, and we'll talk about all the stuff. Just bear with me for a second. I'm going to bring our Xenocracy community up that for some obscure reason always takes forever. Actually, let me bring it up on my iPad and then I'll move it over to, got extra cables lying around here. Typically unprepared, as I so frequently am. All right, let's bring this up. Hang on. And then we'll bring Instagram in as well. I haven't brought those folks in. YouTube, how are you? I hope you're all doing well. If there's anybody here from YouTube. Okay, there we go. We've got this happening there. Hey, Ann, how are you? Anyone there from Facebook? Anybody here from Facebook? I don't see any Facebookers. That's okay. We'll get there. Let me just try one more time to bring. There we go. There we go. Now we have. Okay. Now we have the live up appropriately. So let me bring this screen over here so I can see it on the teleprompter. Let's bring Instagram into the house. Hey, Catherine. Good morning. How are you today? Okay. So we've got Instagram. We've got Substack. We've got YouTube. We've got Facebook. Everyone but TikTok. You can't just do TikTok. It's just TikTok won't allow it. So we're not going to do TikTok. Living the dream, Catherine. Amen. Let's get started, guys. I like to usually wait till the lives populate up a little bit, but try to keep my lives tight, short and tight. Trying to keep them to a half an hour, 40 minutes tops. Never seems to happen, but that's the goal. So we're trying to keep them tight. Okay. Yesterday, the things I'd like to talk about today, if you guys would like to join me. Yesterday, we went from the end of Iranian civilization to Iran today being in a better position than before they got into the war. That's where we went. And, I got to be honest, a lot of people had felt, and believed with certainty that was going to be the case. Lots of people were saying it. I can tell you that right now. But it's actually true. Like there were a lot of people. I really wasn't sure. I mean, I should have been sure. It's almost disappointing that I wasn't certain of it because he's crazy and the idiot could have just ordered, a complete annihilation of Iran. Not that would have happened, but he does not. Catherine, Donald does not seem to have the Midas touch. Oh, actually, I've got the wrong article up. This is our second thing we're going to talk about. Let's go here. Let's go to the war first. Second thing we're going to talk about is the Democrats continue to overperform in notable election. Everything he puts his hands on turns to shit. I would strongly agree with that sentiment, Catherine. So where are we? So let's just kind of recap. I know you guys all know what happened, but let's just do it anyway. So as we're approaching the deadline, the idiot is panicking. He's looking for a way out, right? At sort of midway through the afternoon, the Pakistanis offer him an out, right? The Pakistanis, out of seemingly nowhere, offer up a deal, right? And this deal is that the Pakistanis kept it simple. right? And I have a theory about how this deal evolved as well. It's just a theory. We'll find out if it's proven to be a fact as there's subsequent reporting. But hey, Jules. Hey, Gamer Vet Dad. How are you guys? But the Pakistanis, offer up this sort of last minute deal. It wasn't really last minute, and they kept it really simple, right? In exchange for Donald Trump not going through with his threat to end the civilization in Iran, to back off on the massive bombing campaign, right? The deal is that the Iranians open up the Strait of Hormuz. That was basically what the Pakistanis, in a nutshell, started offering like mid-afternoon yesterday, or closer to. Maybe the first time I saw it was about 3:30, 4 o'clock. I'm just guessing. I don't remember exactly, but that seemed to be the first time I saw that statement. Um, so the Pakistanis tossed that offer out. And I originally thought that there's no fucking way. There's no way the Iranians are going to go for it, because why would they? What would be the benefit for them to? They already had the upper hand. They had the village idiot on his heels politically. They knew he was desperate to get out of this war. They were mocking him all week. They were goading him, prodding him. And, I thought, if all they're going to get out of the deal is that the idiot just isn't going to move forward with the bombing, which it's questionable whether he would have moved forward with it or not, because he was potentially facing the end of his presidency. I mean, I know that's a stretch with Republicans, but even the Republicans in the House and the Senate, had this thing gone south, as it absolutely would have, there would have been epic war crimes that were unthinkable crimes that our military, our soldiers would have been forced to engage in. There would have been countless casualties on both sides, because we would have had to engage in a ground war. It would have been a clusterfuck of unthinkable proportions. The entire Middle East would have lit on fire. You potentially would have had some of our allies in the Middle East turning against us at some point, shifting with the Iranians as the war crimes exacerbated. So the idiot, although he's crazy, there's still a vestige, a sliver of sanity, in the sense of, a political, whatever's left of a political survival instinct that the imbecile has, right? So he couldn't have done it. And I mean, he could have, because, it could be any given moment that full on crazy takes over, and he could have done it. But you would think that he probably wouldn't, right? That was my. That was, but I didn't know. So irrespective, the Pakistanis float this suggestion, and it kind of sits out there. I thought it wasn't going to happen, but I didn't know the details, right? I didn't know at the time that part of the 2-week deal was going to be that, first of all, the village idiot all but moves aside, gives up on his supposed 15-point peace plan, which was 15 points of demands, most of which the Iranians would never agree to. Nor did I think the village idiot would be so desperate that not only would he surrender his 15-point plan, but he would accept, in essence, right, immediately, several points of the Iranians' 10-point plan, to the point where he would actually, once he accepted the agreement, the supposed agreement sent forward by the Pakistanis, he would actually say, he wouldn't mention his 15-point plan anymore, right? He would actually say in a True Social post that it's a 10-point deal. It's very acceptable. It's excellent for negotiations. We're going to start with our 10-point plan. It's going to be fantastic. But he did. Right? That happened. Right? The Iranians clearly knew that. And what I didn't know, when that deal was being brokered between the Pakistanis, between the U.S. and the Iranians, were that the Iranians were going to get full control of the Strait of Hormuz immediately, like now. like this minute, like full, and not just were the Iranians going to get full control of the Strait of Hormuz, but they were going to get to charge people, ships, $2 million. And they were going to get their, it was their idea that they share that $2 million with their neighbors on the other side, Oman. So they made a deal, they got their $2 million a ship, 100 ships a day, right? At full throttle. I mean, it's going to be a while till we're there, right? $200 million a day, potentially. It's a lot of fucking money. Each country gets $100 million a day. I think the Iranians are not just inspired to open the Strait of Hormuz, but to really get things moving quickly. Not only are the Iranians, and that's just what came out of yesterday's capitulation by the village idiot Donald Trump, right? What happened before that? The Iranians there's no sanctions on Iranian oil. The Iranians are free to sell oil today, and they can move their ships, their tankers or whatever, or anybody's tankers from any country can go through the Strait of Hormuz and get their oil from Iran, pay them for the oil, and pay $2 million for the privilege of being able to ship the oil. I mean, it is so fucking laughable. It is nuts at an epic level. Gamer Vet Dad, I've seen the Gene Wilder scene from Willy Wonka telling Charlie he gets nothing. Good day. That's the message Iran sent to Donald John James Jesus Christ Trump. Yes, I absolutely, Gamer Vet Dad. It is. I did a post. On on the vertical socials on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube Shorts earlier today, where I talked about when you take stupid people and you give a collection of incredibly stupid people a tremendous amount of power, and then those incredibly stupid people utilize that tremendous power to start a war, and to start a war with people who are smarter than they are, right? And to be dumb enough to not only start a war with people who are smarter than they are, but to start a war with people who have a much higher pain tolerance than the stupid people do, right? This group of stupid people has no pain tolerance. So they start this war with these people who are smarter, who have a remarkable tolerance for pain. The only possible outcome of that interaction, right? The only possible outcome of that interaction is a stupid outcome for the stupid people who have very low pain tolerance. Now, you add another element into this batshit dumb fuckery, right? And that is that the stupid people who have very low pain tolerance, who started the war with smarter people who have a much higher pain tolerance, you add in the oddball reality that the stupid people are grossly, almost comically, although catastrophically, unfit, incompetent to perform the jobs that they've been given, right? They have no concept of the actual job, how to do the job they've been given, right? When you add that element to this scenario, then not only, as I said before, do you get a stupid outcome, do the stupid people get a stupid outcome in the war, but they get an incredibly humiliating outcome in the war. And that's where we are today, right? This is where we are today. Iran, I don't discount the horror of the catastrophe of the lives that were lost unnecessarily for no fucking reason. What did we lose? 13 soldiers that we know about? We have potentially in the low hundreds injured. We don't know how many of them are seriously injured. We don't know how many of them are injured with life changing injuries. We don't know that. We'll never know that. Well, eventually, good reporting will come out about that. We have 3,000 people dead in Iran, give or take, right? But that's the estimate. You have maybe 100, 150. Please fact check me, anybody who know the numbers. People dead, Israelis that have been killed, and a couple handfuls of folks that have been killed in other Arab nations as a result of this war. So I don't take that reality lightly as I'm making fun of Donald Trump and Pete Hegseth and the rest of the morons, how they're being, how I'm mocking how they are being railroaded, manipulated, and outflanked and out-strategized and outwitted by stronger people than they are in Iran. But I don't take the death and destruction lightly. And that, a lot of the Iranian infrastructure has been leveled, and a lot of civilians are going to suffer, people who have suffered for decades under this repressive regime, now for no fucking reason have to suffer trying to rebuild the rubble that was their neighborhood. It's even the Iranian Jews who live under constant, the handful of them who live under constant threat. Their synagogue was destroyed by Israel. What the fuck? Right? So I don't discount that. I just feel it's important to acknowledge that reality. But the stupidity is comical. The stupidity that the Iranians are in a better position today, economically, is staggering. It's not unexpected, but it's staggering. The idea that the Iranians are in, perhaps even though their 55-year-old Navy and Air Force, a lot of the planes and many of the boats have been destroyed. The idea, even though that reality, their antiquated planes and naval strength, what the limited the amount that they had has been destroyed. That seems true. There's ample reporting to follow up those claims by the village idiot and Hegseth. They're hardly less of a threat than they were before. To Israel, they were not a threat to the United States. They didn't have intercontinental ballistic missiles. Yeah, their terror cells are no less of a threat here in the United States than they were before. Drunken Pete Hegseth, who probably had a few too many before this morning's press conference, informed us all that the Iranian drone and missile systems had been completely devastated. While that crazy motherfucker was saying that, Iran was sending bombs or drones and missiles into Saudi Arabia this morning after the fucking ceasefire, right? Again and again and again and again and again, we've seen these Shahad drones and these smaller drones. I can't think of what they're called. And they're ballistic missiles shot at Israel, shot at their allies. It's just a straight up lie that's been destroyed. So they're no less of a threat at all. It's not like they were threatening the Israelis with their fucking navy, right? It's not like we ever heard that the Iranians were going to hit Israel, with their fighter jets. Have you ever heard anything ever about the Iranian Navy? Ever? I mean, even in one moment, like one, I can't think. I mean, I watch a lot of news, lots of news, all the time, and in the last 20 years, I never heard anything about Iran's navy or their air force ever, ever, ever. Nothing, not one thing. Right? When the Iranians, um, when there's a skirmish or a potential skirmish in the past between the Israelis and the Iranians, it's always drones and missiles, right? They're all still there. The enriched uranium. I was reading a lot of reporting on the supposed deal, and the details of the deal are still somewhat murky, but the reporting that's out there, the confirmed reporting that's out there, is the Iranians, at least during this 2-week period, are allowed to keep their enriched uranium. Not that we know where the fuck it is anyway, and not that we could get to it without ground troops anyway. But for the 2 weeks, they're keeping it. During the ceasefire, it's going to be fantastic. We're stopping. And Iran's 10-point plan includes keeping their enriched uranium. And guess what, folks? They will. They will get everything they want out of their 10-point plan, except maybe the only thing they don't get is, and because they were just getting so ridiculous that so they could negotiate the idiot down, is that they get rid of the U.S. troops in the region. That wouldn't happen. And why? Why will they get everything else that they want? And why do I know that this is going to happen? I know it's going to happen. Well, let me tell you the why first. Why they're going to get everything they want is because they have all the leverage. Trump can't go back to war with Iran unless his frontotemporal dementia kicks in so much that whatever is left of his political survival instinct disappears. He cannot. Let me repeat it. Trump cannot go back to war. He cannot start up this war again. His presidency is actually at risk. And he, as dumb as he is, he knows it. And he cannot. Again, unless he loses whatever marbles he has left, he will not start up the war again with Iran. That doesn't mean it won't happen. Don't get me wrong, because he very well could. He often loses the few marbles he has left for long, extended periods of time. So I am not saying that this ceasefire will hold and that we won't be back in a war again with Iran. But I'm saying politically he can't. And as long as there's a sliver of sanity left in that deluded fucking mind, it won't happen. And so the only way he gets out of this is he gives Iran almost everything it wants, except the U.S. troops being removed from the region, gives them almost everything they want, and then he just lies here like he's doing today. And that's how I know that he's about to give them everything he wants. Because today he's rebranding. The focus now isn't defeating Iran. I'm going to get to Bibi in a second because I have some thoughts about that, Jules. And you're right. And GamerVet Dad, Lacey, I see you've got some comments too. I'm going to definitely get to your comments. But the what his focus is now, the focus now is to sell us, not you and me because we know better, but it's to sell whatever he's got left of the MAGA base, whoever will believe him, to sell them on this idea that this was a stunning victory, that he is a fucking military genius, that he was playing 4D chess, that he is doing this in such a way that no other president could have possibly ever dreamed in a million years of pulling it off, that he is the king and he's the smartest guy in the room. And everybody else, every other president was stupid, the dumb people. I'm the smartest one. I got this incredible deal. They're bullshitting us now. He's posting and doing interviews, and he's doing a full court press trying to get exclusive interviews with media outlets. Iran is going to get into the golden age. We're going to have the golden age in Iran. It's going to be fantastic. There's going to be all kinds of deals. We're going to be the best of friends. We're going to help rebuild. Oh, and by the way, we're gonna help them. We're gonna patrol the Strait of Hormuz with the Iranians. No, we're not. We wouldn't send our fucking navy into the Strait of Hormuz when we were supposedly winning the war because they had no more missiles, because we didn't want our naval ships and personnel destroyed. That's not part of this fucking agreement that we're going to be in the Strait of Hormuz with the Iranians. No, guess what? If we're going to be in the Strait of Hormuz in any capacity, it's going to cost us $2 million. You cannot make this shit up. So the fact that these idiots are going on a full court PR campaign to try to convince us that Iran is now going to be our best fucking friend, and that like we're going to, as the golden age for the Iranian people are coming. Which Iranian people, by the way? Is it the golden age for the Iranian people who want freedom, who the idiot 2 or 3 or 4 months ago promised, get out there, we're going to have you back. Go protest. If they do anything, I'm going to be in there. We're going to have guns blazing. We're going to take them out. And then tens of thousands of them were murdered by the regime. Right? Are those the people that are our friends now? Right? That we're going to go hand in hand with? No. Who are we going hand in hand with? It's with the regime. It's with the Ayatollah. Okay, he's going to welcome us with open arms. The more radical son of the extremely radical former Ayatollah who we killed. That guy, right? And the village idiots, right? And the village idiots, he argued, and part of the full court press, part of the PR blitz that these idiots are involved with now is regime. There's been regime change, right? You can't. It's his son. There's been no regime change. The Ayatollah's son is the Ayatollah. The Ayatollah's son is more radical from reporting, credible reporting, than the former Ayatollah. Right? So there's no regime change. And the problem that the problem that the Trump administration has politically right now, and this is going to segue into the next segment that I want to go to, but I do want to get to the comments. The problem that the Iranian I'm sorry, I just lost my train of thought because I'm starting to read the comments while I'm talking. What was I going to say? It's gone. It'll come back. Let me read some comments. Hey, Irish Aggie. It's good to see you. Catherine, we also get to rebuild Iran. Jules, Gamer Vet Dad, I see you and Lacey having a discussion in there. Let me just get to the beginning of it. The other crazy variable is Bibi, yes. And Benjamin Netanyahu is the other crazy variable. And I don't know what happens there, because the difference between Netanyahu and Trump is Netanyahu is as corrupt as the day is long, and he's a desperate man who is also facing, a corruption trial that he very well could lose, and it seems that he's got to have a war to have his freedom indefinitely. But he's not an idiot, right? That's where the real difference is. So. And he's got this this sociopathic, extremist, right-wing cabinet. These cabinet members. I can't remember the Minister of Defense. I can't remember his name. They're fucking crazy. They're religious fanatics. That will be happy to stay in this war as long as possible, or longer. We'll be happy to annihilate the Iranians any way possible. So, and Netanyahu sort of needs that as well. To, like I said, I feel like he's partially or significantly driven by his corruption. So what does he do? Netanyahu. I don't know. I mean, it looks like we can only kind of guess based on what we see, right? And it looks like the Israelis have honored the begrudgingly, but have sort of honored or agreed to the agreement, sort of. I mean, there was some Israel and Iranian after the ceasefire. There were exchanges of missiles and I can't remember exactly what. I don't know if there was some Iranian Israeli flyovers and Iranian drones. I don't remember, but it was limited. But it seems like Netanyahu has so far respected that part of the ceasefire. Now, the Pakistanis yesterday were saying that Lebanon must be included in the ceasefire, was included in the ceasefire. That was one of Iran's 10-point requirements. It's one of the few points on their 10-point requirements that haven't been honored. It's like they got 8 out of 10, right? Or some shit like that, right? So the Israelis, though, starting yesterday into today, you have these horrendous attacks on Lebanon. I was just looking at here in Al Jazeera. Let's see if they're reporting on it again. Lebanon's parliament speaker calls Israeli strike full-fledged war crime. I don't remember exactly. It was just a massive bombardment. I'm looking here. Lebanon's southern coastal city of Tyre. Let me just see if there's more reporting on it. But it was at least 89 killed, 700 wounded in Lebanon's assault today. So how does that affect the Iranian U.S. agreement? I don't know. I don't think it does, because I think the Iranians are in such a good position. As much as they made a demand of the Israelis and Lebanon, they'll never find themselves in. I mean, again, minus what they sacrificed to get to this position, they'll never find themselves here in a million years. They'll never have an idiot like Donald Trump as the American president again. They'll never have an opportunity to manipulate, a war with America, if there ever is one again, in the way they did. They'll never be this successful, because you'll never have an American president that's this dumb. That's just not possible. You'll never have a Secretary of Defense that is this unfit for the job and this insane. You'll never have a chairman of the Joint Chief of Staff who may be a seasoned military general, but who is this much of a sycophantic ass-kissing nut job, right? They'll never have an American government that they can manipulate and out-strategize. It'll never be this easy. They're doing the same thing with war. The Iranians are doing the same thing with war that the Chinese did with tariffs, right? So with the U.S. So it'll never be like this again. So I don't know. I mean, I think it's a great question or a great comment, Jules. I just got to grab a tissue, guys. That Bibi is the wild card in this, but I don't know. The Iranians really are they have so much leverage that unless Netanyahu intentionally decides that he needs to undermine the U.S. ceasefire somehow, and he starts bombing Iran again, I don't know if Netanyahu matters. He mattered in the beginning, but it was because it's clear that he and Lindsey Graham manipulated Donald Trump to get Trump to go in and do this shit in the beginning. It's clear that Netanyahu didn't get what he needed, which was Iran not to be a threat to Israel anymore. That is not the case. But does he, now that he's kind of, used the useful idiot as much as he can, I don't know that there's much more Netanyahu can get out of Trump at this moment when it comes to this situation, because the one thing with the village idiot is you use him, you manipulate him, you get what you want from him, and then the idiot moves on after he loses. And then he may not be accessible to you anymore. So I'm not sure. I don't know. I don't know what's going on in the mind of Netanyahu. So back over on Instagram, Wilfredo, they are going to charge the ships. Absolutely. That's what we were talking about before. Wilfredo, Iran will be better off. You can't make this up. I absolutely, I agree with you 1,000%. Iran is in a better position than it was before this war happened. It is in a stronger position than it was before this war happened. And Donald Trump is in a desperate way right now. So he doesn't care about what he achieves with the negotiations in Iran. He only cares about what he achieves here, trying to sell a bunch of bullshit on whoever will listen to him. And so, Gail, you've got yes, great result. Hey, Tina, how are you? Gamer Vet Dad, Netanyahu wanted the war so he could capture Lebanese land, and is not happy we did not go all in. So, Gamer Vet Dad, and I know you and Lacey were having a chat a little higher up, and I don't know if this is an extension of that. So, forgive me if I'm just sort of bouncing in out of context on your comment, and if I misinterpret it. But that's an interesting perspective. So if I understand what you're saying here, your point here is that Netanyahu wasn't really he was more realistic about it in the sense that he didn't think annihilation of Iran was his end goal. Removing Iran as the threat that he perceives it to be to Israel wasn't actually the goal. The goal was to lure us into the war, get us fighting with Iran, which inevitably greenlit his opportunity to go in and try to turn Lebanon into Gaza. I mean, I think that's what you're saying. And Gamer Vet Dad, am I trusting the data? He was going to fold. I think you're talking about Trump there as well. And Trump will look with Trump. I like, and then I want to just go on to story 2 in a second, guys. But with Trump, okay, thanks, Gamer Vet Dad. So I just want to make sure I wasn't misquoting you because I didn't read your. I know you and Lacey were having a chat. And I didn't read the whole thing. So let's move on. I could babble on about this for another 45 minutes. So let's move on. Oh, quick plug here. Guys, if you didn't, I know this is out of context. Folks over on YouTube and Instagram, Facebook, you may have, if you didn't head over to Substack, you would have missed my interview yesterday with Melanie Sloan. Melanie is a former assistant U.S. attorney from Washington, D.C., in Washington, D.C. We took a little bit of although I talked about the war a little bit with Melanie yesterday in the beginning, that our focus was primarily Pam Bondi's firing, what's actually happening at the Department of Justice, what's happening with the U.S. legal system, with the rule of law at all. And it was a really, really great conversation. Melanie is, she had a lot of really, really good insights, but you wouldn't have necessarily seen the live stream as because I had that just on Substack. If you want to check it out, it was a really, really good. First of all, it'll give you a little bit break from the madness of the war, and it'll help you maybe get some perspective on what is going on at the Department of Justice right now. Much, 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 much to be concerned about. Much more than we even know about. The Trump administration isn't just. Let me just give you a little teaser. Trump administration isn't just going after Letitia James, James Comey, Jerome Powell, and Trump's Jack Smith, and Trump's perceived very high-profile political enemies. The Department of Justice is looking for ways to try to prosecute all of the Department of Justice line prosecutors who were involved in almost any capacity in the January in Jack Smith's January 6th investigations, in some of the prosecutions of the January 6th animals that attacked the Capitol building. The DOJ is going after them. I did not know that because it's not getting any coverage in mainstream media. So Head over to xenocracy.news in whatever social media platform you're on. The link is in that profile. Head over there, subscribe for free. Check out the recorded the recorded interview is up there. Check it out. It's really good. You'll be even more informed than you are right now about this kind of stuff. And if you feel like it's something that you want to do, that you're something comfortable with, and you want to support my work, please opt for a paid subscription. But a free subscription is so much appreciated just as well. In a couple of days, I will move that. I mean, I'll load a copy of that up on for the YouTube only folks. And I get it. YouTube is your space and you don't like to go anywhere else. And that's completely understandable. I always go exclusively to Substack first because that's our sort of our video hub. But it will be up on YouTube in a few days as well. So let's move on to yesterday's elections, if I can find it. You may not have known about these, my friends. We had two elections of note yesterday. You had a Supreme Court election in the state of Wisconsin, and you had a special election in Georgia for Marjorie Taylor Greene's seat. In Wisconsin, the liberal Democrat, the progressive person running for the Supreme Court seat won easily by 20 points. That is a fucking landslide of epic proportions. Wisconsin is a swing state. It's a swing state from what I've learned about Wisconsin over the last couple of years. It's a swing state across the board at the at the local level, at the state level. Like Wisconsin is a true swing state. It used to be one of the Democrats' guaranteed blue wall states, but that doesn't seem to exist anymore. But because of Trump and because of Republican extremism, the swing statedness of Wisconsin is shifting quickly back to perhaps, God willing, a safe blue state. A 20-point win in Wisconsin. I think this is the fourth, Gamer Vet Dad, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this is the fourth time recently that you've had an election for a state Supreme Court justice in Wisconsin where the Democrats have won that seat, and that's and it's been in a short period of time. It's unthinkable in a wonderful way. Secondly, you had for Marjorie Taylor Greene's seat, you had the Republican. I don't know what his name is. I really don't give a shit. The Republican did win in this incredibly deep red district, but you had almost a 20-point swing in the favor, a 20-point overperformance by the Democratic candidate. Now, the Democratic candidate was a strong candidate. He was like a brigadier general in the military. He was like, if you're going to run somebody in a deep red district that elected Marjorie Taylor Greene when she was as crazy as Trump, it was pretend crazy, as we learn now. Oh, third. Okay, Gamer Vet Dad, thank you for keeping me honest. That was the third election, not the fourth in Wisconsin. So Democrats had a strong candidate in this incredibly deep red state, red district that voted for that, again, elected not the found the light, sane Marjorie Taylor Greene, the batshit crazy Jewish space laser, chasing down, a guy, a young man who was a victim at the park, who survived the Parkland shooting, in the street, kind of, Trump is my God sort of Republican. That's who they elected. You had so you had this remarkable overperformance. I wasn't terribly optimistic that, I didn't follow the race closely. I was just hopeful that maybe the Democrat would win because again, ever since January 20th, 2025, when the Village Idiot was inaugurated, in nearly every election of note, most of which Democrats have won, some of whom have won in incredibly deep red districts like Marjorie Taylor Greene's district, whether it be at the state level or the federal level. But even when the Democrats lose, they win because they overperform so well in these districts. And you're talking again, Donald Trump won that district. I think the guy yesterday, I don't know if he won by 12 points or 13 points, which is respectable. It's a solid win for the Republican. Can't argue that. But Trump won that fucking district by 37 points. 37 points, right? I think Marjorie Taylor Greene in her last election won it by 25 points. If Democrats are cutting, nearly cutting it swinging nearly 20 points, that's staggering. And then you have some elections over the last year and a half where they've actually won in districts like that. There's no reason. Ken Martin, are you listening to me? Chair of the DNC? I'm sure you know this. You're smarter than me when it comes to this stuff, but I'm going to tell you anyway, just in case you're here. Ken Martin, that's a winnable race. That's, the guy who won, the Trump-endorsed guy who won, is going to be up for re-election in November. That's a winnable race. Let's get it. If we shave 20 points off of that election, we can, Donald Trump isn't going to stop being fucking crazy, right? Let's run this same guy again. He was a strong candidate, but let's just make sure that we get the vote out, that you get the people. See, that's a race where I think, and again, I am not an election consultant. I'm just a schmuck in my little home office babbling incessantly. So take this for what it's worth. But I feel like that's a race where if you can get where you're not going to get the Democrats to come out excitedly just to vote against Trump. You need to get and I don't think that's the case around the country. I think much of what we've seen, these 20-point swings, these 30-point swings, is all that Donald Trump sucks. It's not like we've had great candidates everywhere. We've had some great candidates, but that's not the reason for it. It's because everybody hates Trump because he's so fucking crazy and he's so bad and he's so corrupt and he's so stupid. That is, and I think Democrats can win the House and the Senate on just hating Trump, just connecting Republican candidates to Trump. That's all you need to do. But I think for the seats like these in deep red districts like this, I think you could win potentially that district by giving them more. Give them a great candidate and let that candidate be the progressive that they are. Don't shy away from populist progressive principles. They're not that different than what Trump promised. Take out the racism, the bigotry, the hatred, all that other shit that Trump is famous for. But if you look what happened in Staten Island in New York. Look what happened with with Mayor Mamdani. Mamdani didn't win Staten Island, but he had a shit ton of votes from Republicans in Staten Island. Mamdani won himself a shit ton of Republicans in Brooklyn, in the Bronx. They voted for Mamdani because of the populist message, because they wanted to change, because they were mad as hell and they weren't going to take it anymore. And Mamdani offered things that Trump actually would have offered. Mamdani offered them an opportunity to have free bus rides, right? Mamdani offered them an opportunity to remove the corruption from city government. Mamdani offered to make housing more affordable, right? And he gave all of these simple policy suggestions that worked, right? And he won handily. And I believe that if Democrats do the same thing, and they don't, why did there were so many Trump supporters in 2016 who would have voted for Bernie Sanders, but they shifted over to Trump when Biden won, I'm sorry, in 2020, who would have voted for Bernie Sanders, but shifted over to Trump when Biden won the primaries, right? So, I think Democrats have to look at what worked for Trump. And yes, we're never going to, we're not going to become white nationalists and Christian nationalists. We're not going to become abject racists. We're not going to vilify white Christians because they don't necessarily agree with us. We're not going to, forever punish the MAGA faithful because they believe what they believe, because it's not worth our time. And that's not who we are. The Democratic Party was never about well, I mean, we fucked up and we were about elitism for many years, but they're done with that, right? They're not exclusionary. Everybody is welcome because it's the pro-democracy movement now. So I really would love to see, if anybody's listening to me, Ken, if you're here, this is what I think. I really want you to get behind the same candidate. And if there were shackles that you guys put on him or he put on himself, rhetorical shackles that didn't afford him the opportunity to really go hard with his progressive values, abortion rights, if that's where he is, housing for everybody, Medicare for all, or at least affordable health care. Let him go all in. Farming subsidies. He knows what the people in his rural state need. Let him offer them that. And then let's get him into Washington in November so he can fight for that. And I would like to see that across the board. In these races where you have tough, Randy Fine, that Islamophobic, I was going to say Muslim hating, but a better word is Islamophobic. It's a better word. I made up it's a fantastic word. I use that word instead of Muslim hating. I use Islam. But he's an Islamophobic, unqualified, loudmouth, Republican asshole. He underperformed. I don't know if he was Matt Gaetz' seat in Florida, if he replaced Matt Gaetz in the special election, or if he replaced Mike Waltz. It was one of those goofballs after Donald Trump won the election and Matt Gaetz wanted to become the attorney general, and Mike Waltz was I don't know, what was his first job? He wasn't the DNI director. He had some intelligence job that Trump threw him out of. But whatever it is, Randy Fine is a racist, opportunity. He just tries to be the biggest racist asshole on the planet right now. He's loud. You could tell I'm spending time on Twitter because I know who these characters are now, right? On X, because I know who these creeps are now. So, and Randy Fine he's also one of my, like me, he's a Jewish person in America. And he just, as far as I'm concerned, he defiles our faith. He's an embarrassment to our faith. He wears these bar mitzvah yarmulkes. When I say these bar mitzvah, those of us that are Jewish, if you're religious or even if you're not religious, a lot of times you go to the synagogue or you go to the bar mitzvah, the little cap that we wear. It's called a yarmulke or a kippah in Hebrew. Yarmulke is more the Yiddish way of saying it. And somebody is a fraud when they profess to be an Orthodox Jew or a strong Jew, but if they have a bright, giant blue yarmulke or a bright red yarmulke and it's a big one, they're full of shit, because the Orthodox wear these little black yarmulkes. They wear these knit yarmulkes, depending on, or if they're ultra Orthodox, they might wear a black hat or something like that. But that the phonies, the performative ones, because those big goofy blue yarmulkes, those are the yarmulkes that you get at bar mitzvahs and weddings. When you only put one on to go to, like when I had my bar mitzvah when I was 13, I had these big red yarmulkes. And inside the yarmulke it would say, Mitch Ivan's bar mitzvah, December 1981. I still have them upstairs. So every American Jew knows that when you see some schmuck, who's a politician out talking about how great a Jew they are, but they have a big blue or a big orange or a big purple yarmulke on their head, that they got that from the last bar mitzvah that they went to and that they're full of shit, because nobody wears that fucking thing every day. So Randy Fine strikes me as one of them. He's a fake Orthodox wannabe pretend Orthodox Jewish guy who professes a deep love for Israel and for his Judaism, and it's all bullshit. And he is an Islamophobe and a racist. But I think even that's a lot of performative bullshit, because a slob like him could never, ever, 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 ever become a member of Congress if not for this moment in history with this jackass as president, with creeps who are taught to be their best selves, their worst selves, voting for some schmuck who performs as his worst self. That is a seat that I believe is accessible. He won his seat by 10 points. Again, I don't remember. It was another like 20-point swing, because I don't remember if it was Gates or Waltz won the seat by like 30 points before him. It's an accessible seat, but you've got to appeal to what even the MAGA extremists but a lot of them are fed up with Trump now. I'm sure none of them are happy after this war and Fine's behavior after this war, and with what Fine has been saying on X and Twitter about Muslims. I'm sure he lost a lot of voters in his district. So get a great candidate. I don't know who's running in that district. I don't know what the primary looks like, but fund that candidate, but let that candidate be as progressive as they are, because that is the same shit that a lot of those MAGA folks are looking for. The ones that aren't hyper-focused on the racism, the bigotry, and the hate, the populism appeals to them. And I say go for it. That's all I have to say about this. What do you guys have to say? So Lacey agreed. Tina is laughing. Lacey, we forgot the regular guy. Dems need to remember the working class. Absolutely. And I think, I think, Lacey, that I hope that the Democrats have learned that lesson. I feel like they have. I feel like the way I saw Mikey Sherrill campaign here in New Jersey to be governor, and you guys were all sitting with me through that race, as I was unnecessarily sweating that race because it's my state, right? And I was worried about Jack Ciattarelli becoming the governor because he's a pretend not MAGA extremist who is a MAGA extremist, right? And I was really kind of sweating it, even though logically and based on GamerVet Dad is a data guy, and based on the data, there was no on the pattern, on the electoral pattern that's been going on for the last year and a half, there was no way Ciattarelli was going to win. And Sherrill won by 12 or 13 points. She clobbered him. That's a rarity in a New Jersey gubernatorial election, that you're going to get that kind of a win, right? But the point that I'm trying to make is, in reference to what you're saying, Lacey, is Mikey Sherrill, member of Congress, prior to becoming governor. She was a military helicopter pilot. I don't know about her socioeconomic status. I really don't. I have no idea, for the time that she was in Congress. But she ran a campaign, a grassroots campaign, hyper-focused on the middle class. And granted, some of the wind in her sails was Donald Trump being so bad. There's no question in my mind. But she also knew here in New Jersey, she wasn't a dynamic. She's still not. She's not a dynamic speaker. Ciattarelli was actually more dynamic. He was far more charismatic than she is. But because you didn't see her on TV, I was losing my mind, because there was one part in the election where I was emailing the campaign like twice a week, right? And for a while they responded, and then they were like, "Shut the fuck! Who is this guy?" Like, shut the. I was like, "Get her out there. We're not seeing her. I'm not seeing commercials. I'm not seeing her on social media. I'm not hearing about rallies. Where the fuck is Mikey?" I was losing my mind. But they knew better. They knew the kind of campaign that they needed to run here in the state of New Jersey, and it was hyper-focused on old-fashioned campaigning, getting out there, meeting with people, talking to everyone, middle-class folks, poor people, and to a lesser extent, the wealthy in New Jersey. But she did, there's no group that could say she ignored them, but she did focus her message, her policy intents, and her entire campaign on this grassroots handshaking, get with the middle class. And it worked. It worked incredibly well here in New Jersey, and she won by a landslide. And she's so far kicking ass as governor right now. And where she was rhetorically um, not as effective as Chitterelli, and even our last governor, Governor Murphy, was a decent speaker. Mikey doesn't have that. She's just not a very dynamic speaker. So far she's a hell of a leader, and she doesn't take shit from Donald Trump, and she's getting things done here in New Jersey in just these couple of months since she's been governor. So I think, Lacey, I agree with you that the Democrats need to remember the working class, but I would preface that by suggesting that it depends on who's running in what race and how I don't know that Mikey Sherrill's approach would work in a bright red district in Marjorie Taylor Greene's district, because they're going to see her as somebody who isn't dynamic. They're going to see her more like, I think a lot of people saw Kamala. Someone Kamala was a dynamic speaker, but it took her a while to fall into that role. And she really didn't do well in interviews, right? So, but she was incredibly focused on the middle class, incredibly kind, aggressive, but loving. And I think in a race like, in a race like that one in Georgia, I feel like that wouldn't work. They would be like, she's a liberal. She's, she's not, what she's saying isn't interesting to me. I want populist shit. I want meat on the bones, and and I want to, they want to smell blood in the election, right? They want a knockdown, drag out election. They want a little bit of an asshole, right? And you know what? Give it to them. I've met many folks. I've interviewed some of them and met others. I've met many folks running for Congress that that are progressives in different primaries that are just ready to get down in the dirt and fight it out, man. And they are strong. They know their shit, and they're ready to just pound the MAGA, the MAGA nominee over the head rhetorically. And the people in their district want that. And they want these populist ideas. And I say, give it to them. That's my 2 cents on it. So Gamer Vet Dad, both chambers are in play. The House is more likely to flip, and a good majority. The Senate is tighter, but possible. We need to keep up the pressure. My original fears are gone and replaced with the Taco Bell White House almost contained. I hear you, Gamer Vet Dad. I'm a little more optimistic, as I've told you. I think the House and the Senate are a lock at this point, because of I just think the election results. I don't see any reason for that not to continue into November. I don't see those results changing, but at the same time, I'm not looking at the data. You're crunching the data, and and the data is telling you this, and I can't argue with that. So I'm kind of in this space, but I respect where you're at too. And either way, hopefully we're both happy, because whatever outcome happens, either your perspective or mine, my perspective or some version of it is still going to be damn good, and we'll take it. All right, guys, 12:19. I was only going to go for 40 minutes today, and that didn't happen. So we're 64 minutes. It's a little more. Thank you so much for being here, guys. I love you guys. If you are on one of the other socials, please like and follow. Again, please also head over to Zenocracy.news. The link is in the profile. Please, please, please consider following my Substack. You're going to get a lot more stuff there, a lot more analysis, and it's really where our home is on the internet. But if you're happy where you are, stay there. I'll be coming out to you there too. So I don't want to put any pressure on anyone. 1 minute at a time, 1 hour at a time. The dog is sensing that we're wrapping the live. That means she knows she's going to go out for a quick 10 minutes before my daily briefing. 1 minute at a time, 1 hour at a time, 1 day at a time, one live at a time. It's a good day in the sense that we're not dealing with an absolute, uncontrollable catastrophe all over the Middle East. Thank God. Let the Iranians manipulate the idiot as long as it keeps peace. We had good election outcomes yesterday. The pattern continues there. We'll pick it up tomorrow, my friends. I'll see you all at 11:15 or so. Be well, everybody, and watch out on my socials for, follow me on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and I'll be posting throughout the day. See you soon, everybody. Much love. All right, guys, I just have to click 2 buttons. Instagram has left the building. Everybody else, I'll see you soon. I love you guys. Thank you.